Hey everyone, it's Lil D from LilDevet.com and welcome back to my channel. So today I'm going to be sharing with you my top 10 tips for setting up my Jibun Techo for next year. My primary goal is to make sure that I am getting full use out of the entire planner so that it can be extremely functional and help me manage everything that I need to do every day. So if you're interested in learning more about it, please keep watching. For 2017, I used the Jibun Techo in the B6 Slim, and this is what it looks like. It does have a decorative cover, but generally speaking, it looks like this. And this worked out perfectly for me. I used it ever since March, and I actually backfilled the information for earlier in the year, and I am set to finish up in this booklet for 2017. So that said, I decided to get a new one for 2018, only this time in the A5 slim size, which I have currently housed in this notebook. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to walk you through the 10 steps that I take for setting it up to be functional for 2018, and hopefully you'll find this helpful for setting up yours as well. So let's get started. First, I'd like to share a little background on the Jibun Techo. I discovered this planner in 2017 and I decided to start off by using the B6 slim size, which is a smaller size. This is close to a B6 size, but not necessarily. It's just a little bit smaller. It measures 4¼ inches by 7¼ inches. This worked perfectly for me in 2017. However, there were times when I needed a little bit more writing space. So for 2018, I decided to upgrade to the A5 Slim. And that one measures 4 7/8 of an inch to 8¼ inches. So I kept the cover. This is actually the sleeve that comes inside the plastic covering. It's just a plain white planner, and what I like to do always is usually take a decorative page, put a nice motivational sticker on it, and I'm good to go. Some quick specs on this planner. This is, like I said, the A5 Slim. It has monthly layouts that go from November 2017 through March of 2019. And then the weeks go from November of 2017 through January of 2019. So let's jump right in on the 10 things that I did to make this planner more functional for me in 2018. The first thing I like to do is always use stick-on tabs. You guys have seen these in some of my other planner videos, and I'll link some of those above. If you do a search on Amazon for stick-on monthly post-it tabs, you will find these easily. And what I'd like to do is these come completely spelled out. All I do is I trim it at the 3rd letter, so I essentially abbreviate the month, and then I'll stick it onto the month on 2 pages. I also like to use additional tabs for important pages. These are the Martha Stewart ones, but again, Post-it also has similar ones to these in various colors and the same size. So that's the first thing I like to do, is mark my monthly pages and important pages with stick-on tabs. Step number 2, I like to set up my yearly page. So it does come with basically a yearly perpetual calendar, and what I like to do is use this as an index. And what I did for this year is I took a narrow piece of paper and I tipped it in using washi tape, and it swings out and it has my key right here. So on these pages, because I have narrow columns and it encompasses the whole year, I just like to keep track of my kids' school schedule, my husband's work schedule, doctor's appointments, and things like that. So that's the second thing that I like to do. Tip number 3, I like to make sure that each of my Jibun Techo lists have a purpose, or if they are for something that I don't need, I repurpose them. And what I mean by that is the Jibun Techo basically gives you a lot of predetermined lists, and some of them are useful and some of them may not be. So for example, here This one was labeled My Dream 2017. What I did was I covered it up with washi tape and stickers, and this is going to be my goal page, and I'll use this adjoining page along with it. Moving along, this is my money plan page. Now this was useful for me in 2017. I actually used this as a bill tracker, so I just did like a little bit of decoration. That's good to go. Next up, and I'll come back to these blank pages. This was a page that was for recommendations, so I decided to convert it to a wish list. And then they also have a book list, which is useful for me, so I decided to keep that. This one is for movies, so I decided to keep that one. This one was for gifts received and gifts given, so I just decided to convert it to gift ideas. Next, this was a promise list, and I decided to convert it to a pending list. Now, for me, a pending list means I'm waiting on something from someone else. For example, let's say that I paid a bill and I made an overpayment, so now I'm expecting a refund from the company. So I would add that to my pending list because it's something that I'm waiting on for an action that I'm waiting for someone to take, and I want to make sure that I don't forget it or fall through the cracks. Another example would be like my kids take their school pictures, so we already paid for them, so now it's just a matter of it arriving in the mail. So I'll add that to my pending list as well. So that's what I'm going to be using these lists for. And then next up, these actually were 2 blank pages, so I decided to make this one to track ideas for family activities, and this one is going to be for our family medical log. Since generally speaking, when you have insurance, you have to take everyone on a yearly schedule. If you take them earlier than that, then it won't be covered. So I like to keep track of our family visits and also for our pets, so that way I know when they need to go back, or if we have appointments, like for example, my daughter has braces, so she has it on a regular schedule. I can remember the last time that she was there. So overall, the Jibun Techo gives you a whole bunch of lists and areas, and I just like to make sure that every single one is utilized, whether it's something I can use or if it's something that doesn't apply to me, I'll just repurpose it. Next up, tip number 4 is the Jibun Techo gives you a page, and this is a blank look at a weekly layout. I think this is great for tracking weekly routines. I used to track it on a list that looks like this and just write down everything that I have to do every day, morning, afternoon, and night. But on here, because it has a 24-hour timeline, it's actually easier. I can put in my schedule, and during the hours where I'm sleeping, I can use that to keep track of daily tasks that I do on a weekly basis, or perhaps a TV schedule or anything like that. So that's what I'm using this one for. And that is tip number 4. Now, tip number 5, for those of you that are big fans of Japanese planners, you know there's a lot of pages with Japanese writing, or perhaps, maps and things that really are not applicable to us, those of us who live in the US. So what I like to do is to just cover them up with some blank pages, so that way I can use them. So what I did this year is I took some 32-pound HP laser printer paper. I measured the size of the page and I cut it out into a shape like this. I rounded the corners, and then I just took like a tape runner and I covered up any pages that I wasn't going to use for whatever reason. So believe it or not, I got back about 16 pages. There's some pages that I covered in the front and a whole bunch of them that I covered in the back, particularly in the back because there's a lot of maps for different subway systems in Japan. And it was really irking me that a lot of those pages were going to waste. So this way, by covering them up, I got 16 additional blank pages for me to use however I see fit. So that was tip number 5. Now, my next tip has to do with your weekly layout. If you've seen any of the other videos on my channel, I do have a Jibun Techo functional plan with me, and I show you how I repurposed my weekly layout. It gives you a 24-hour timeline. For me, I don't really do time blocking, but I do keep track of tasks and things for different life areas. So what I like to do is I block off this top section for appointments. So my appointments always go across the top of the page. The next section I usually block off for tasks. So I know all my tasks are clustered in this next row. The next section is always dedicated to notes. So anything that might come up during the day, perhaps I received a package or I made a phone call to someone, I'll write those notes in this middle section. The next section down, I block it off for all my content management, so anything I'm doing with my blog or my YouTube. This next section I have dedicated to wellness, so that's tracking my water intake, exercise, things like that, if I do facials or anything, to take care of myself. And then at the bottom, it's kind of like a free-for-all. Sometimes I'll jot down a quote down here. Sometimes I'll use it as a meal tracker. But by doing it this way, I just want to show you the possibility that even though you might have a planner that has a particular layout and it might be predefined, that it's really up to you and your system on how you utilize it. When I saw this, I personally prefer vertical layouts, but for me, in order for it to work, I really needed to block it off by type. So that's what I did, and that's why it worked out so well for me in 2017. So don't be afraid to design your own weekly layout and not necessarily take the predefined layout because it just might work well for you. So that's tip number 6. Tip number 7, again, this is something that I demonstrated in my other video, and that is, as I'm keeping track of different things, I like to color code or use codes so that I can differentiate the multitude of different things that I'm tracking on a page. So I'm currently using this Coletto pen. It has 4 colors. And what I do is I generally write with a fountain pen with a either burgundy or purple color. Anything written in that color has to do with me or our pets. Orange is for my daughter, green is for my husband, blue is for my son, and black is for work. So what I usually do is, as I'm writing things in, I'll just put a little circle right in front of the appointment, task, or note so that I know which family member or life area it belongs to. Initially, I was using market dots, which are just round dots in those colors. But after a while, those, it got a little tedious. This is a little bit easier to carry because the cover that I'm using for this planner, I can carry 2 pens. So I have my fountain pen on one side and then I keep this one on the other side and I use it to color code everything. So color coding is essential for me because even though I have a lot of information captured on a page, I can easily zoom into whatever information I need for whatever family member or life area based on the color coding system or the code. So for example, if I don't have this pen handy, what I'll do is I will put B for blog or Y for YouTube or W for work. So that's another way to do it. Next up is bookmarks. So yes, the Jibun Techo does come with 2 bookmarks. I usually will keep one on the current month and the other one on the current week. However, I'm experimenting with bookmarks. So these are actually Avery bookmarks. They're used for like project life type projects, and they're actually super long. And all I did was that I cut it down, I rounded off the corners, and I cut out this notch. I don't know if you guys could see that. There you go. So I just cut out a square in the center so that way I can just put it over the pages. So I have one on my monthly, and then I made a second one for my weekly. So again, it's just a super long tab that you use for the big Project Life books. Cut it down. I cut out a square here in the center so I can have some sort of a tab to grab onto a page, and I will put it over the pages. So this one goes on my current week, and it sticks out from the top so I know which is which. Another kind of bookmark that I like to use is these book darts. I love these because they're so thin, so they take up absolutely no space at all. And the way I like to use these is just to mark off the day of the week. So since I do like to use a weekly layout, I just want to remember when I flip to it which column I should be focusing on. So I'll have it on the current days. So this one is currently on November 10th on a Friday, and then for tomorrow I'll move it over to the next day, and so forth, so on. So bookmarks are very important for keeping your place within your book. Number 9 is US holidays. So since this is a Japanese planner, it really does not come with the holidays already identified on the pages. So here what I did was I just took like either a little stamp or a highlighter, a bright highlighter, and I just wrote them in. So this is the month of November. So here I have Daylight Savings Time, Veterans Day, and Thanksgiving. And then I just did that, you know, so here I have Christmas. I just went through the booklet and I made sure that these were in here because, of course, these are important to know for days off, and also for, you know, like Daylight Savings Time, you have to move the clocks. So just remember to look those up and add those to your planner. So that was tip number 9. And finally is supplements. So what I mean by supplements is that even though in this planner with my lists and also the blank pages that I created, I'm getting a lot of use out of it, it, you know, still lacks something. So for example, it still lacks pages to take notes. So this is going to be my cover for 2018. This one is by Paper Flower House Design Studio, and that is her business card right there if you're interested. And what I did is, this is going to house my Jibun Techo, but because I know I don't have a lot of blank pages in here, I just added a blank grid notebook so I can capture those. So to supplement this system, I have a book dedicated for notes. And then because there's a lot of moving parts to my content, both on my blog and on YouTube, I have a dedicated booklet for those tasks and other things that I'm doing. And then I have another Moleskine Cahier, and this is just for brainstorming. Sometimes you just need to jot things down with no organization whatsoever. Just get it out of your head and then worry later about what goes where. So I added that as well. So by having these additional pieces to supplement my system, I know that I'll have everything I need to have a good functional planning system to manage every life area and every project that I'm managing for 2018. So I hope you enjoyed learning the top 10 tips that I use to set up my Jibun Techo to be functional. Watch out for more videos in the future, and if you have any questions, please leave them in the comments below. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up and like, share, and subscribe, as well as check out my blog at littledevette.com for more information. Thanks again for watching. Until next time, bye.